Millions of people all over the world who have never met each other remember the exact same thing. And it never happened. Not a vague memory, not a fuzzy detail, a specific, confident, vivid memory. The wrong spelling of a children's book series. A line from a movie that was never said. A man who, in their memory, died in prison decades before he actually did. And here's the part that should unsettle you. These are not isolated mistakes. The exact same false memory, with the exact same details, shows up in people from different countries and different generations who never spoke to each other before comparing notes online. This phenomenon has a name now. It is called the Mandela Effect. And whether you believe the explanation is simple or something far stranger, by the end of this video, you are going to start questioning your own memories. In 2009, a paranormal researcher named Fiona Broome attends a science fiction convention. She starts a conversation that will eventually name an entire category of human experience. She mentions, almost casually, that she clearly remembers Nelson Mandela dying in prison in the 1980s. She remembers the news coverage. She remembers his widow giving a statement to the press. The problem is that Nelson Mandela did not die in prison in the 1980s. He was released in 1990. He became president of South Africa in 1994, and he lived until 2013. What stops this from being a simple, forgettable mistake is what happens next. Broome discovers that she is not alone. Dozens, then hundreds, then thousands of people report the exact same false memory, completely independently. Not a vague sense that he might have died early. A specific detailed memory of news coverage that, as far as any verified record shows, never existed. Broome names the phenomenon after him. The Mandela Effect. And once people had a name for it, they started noticing it everywhere. Here is where this gets strange, because some of these are not obscure trivia. Some of these are things you, watching this video right now, probably believe with total confidence. And you might be wrong about them. Take the children's book series about a family of bears. Most people, asked to spell the name from memory, confidently write it with an E. Berenstein. The actual, documented, trademark name has always been spelled with an A. Berenstain. This is not a recent change. Every printed cover, going back to the 1960s, spells it exactly the way it is spelled today. And yet, ask a room full of adults to spell it from memory, and a striking number will get it wrong, with total confidence, in exactly the same way. Or take the most famous line from the original Star Wars film. The moment the villain reveals the truth. Most people who grew up quoting that scene will tell you the line is, "Luke, I am your father." Go back and actually watch the film. The line is, "No, I am your father." The word Luke was never said in that sentence at all. Millions of people have quoted a line from one of the most rewatched films in history, incorrectly, in exactly the same way. Then there is the board game mascot. Most people picture him wearing a monocle. He never wore one. There's the clothing logo that many people remember, including a cornucopia, a horn-shaped basket, somewhere in the design. It never had one. What makes these examples so unsettling is not that a few individuals misremember things. People misremember constantly, in random, unpredictable ways. What is strange here is the consistency. Huge numbers of unrelated people, across different countries and generations, converge on the exact same wrong detail, instead of misremembering it differently from each other. So is this proof of parallel universes quietly merging, as some corners of the internet genuinely argue? Or is there a more grounded explanation? Cognitive scientists who study memory have a well-documented answer. And it does not require multiple timelines. It only requires a better understanding of how unreliable human memory actually is. The first piece is called confabulation. It is the brain's habit of filling gaps in memory with details that simply feel plausible, without ever telling you that any filling in happened at all. Your brain does not experience this as guessing. It experiences it as remembering, with full confidence, even when the detail it just produced is completely wrong. The second piece explains why these false memories converge so consistently. Phonetic and visual pattern matching. Bernstein simply sounds more familiar to an English speaker's ear than Berenstain. The ending Stein is extremely common in surnames, while Stain carries an unrelated, slightly unpleasant meaning as an ordinary English word. Your brain, predicting the most likely sound, quietly corrects it. The same way autocorrect might fix a word you typed correctly into the one it thinks you meant. The movie line works the same way. Luke, I am your father, is a more natural, complete-sounding sentence in English than the real line, which begins in the middle of a conversation with the word no doubt. Parodies, references, and tributes have repeated the corrected version so many times over the decades that the misquote has been reinforced by the culture itself. The false memory feels confirmed every single time you hear someone else say it the same wrong way. And there is a third piece: social reinforcement. Once enough people share the same false memory online, seeing that false version again and again actually strengthens it in your own mind, even if your original memory was a few degrees closer to the truth. So the scientific explanation is not that reality changed. It is that human memory was never built to be a perfect recording device in the first place. Large groups of people, exposed to the same cultural patterns and the same psychological shortcuts, are remarkably likely to make the exact same mistake, completely independently of each other. Here is the honest tension at the center of this topic. The scientific explanation is well supported. It was tested in memory research for decades before the Mandela Effect even had a name, and it accounts for the vast majority of the examples people bring up. But it does not satisfy the emotional weight of the experience itself. You remember something personally, vividly, with total confidence. And then you are told that your brain simply made an error. The same error, made independently by millions of other brains. That can feel more unsettling than a stranger explanation would, because it suggests that your own memory, the thing you trust most to tell you what is real, cannot be fully trusted. That discomfort is exactly why the parallel universe theory, despite having zero scientific support, remains so appealing. It offers an explanation that does not ask you to distrust your own mind. It only asks you to distrust reality instead. And for a lot of people, that turns out to be the easier thing to accept. Here is what actually stays with me about the Mandela Effect. More than any misremembered name or any misquoted movie line, we walk around every day treating our memory as if it were a recording. As if whatever we clearly remember must be exactly what happened, simply because it feels so certain from the inside. But memory was never built for accuracy. It was built for survival, for pattern recognition, for filling gaps quickly so we could keep moving without getting stuck on every uncertain detail. And maybe that is the quieter lesson hiding inside this entire phenomenon. How confident you feel about a memory has almost no relationship to how accurate that memory actually is. Confidence and correctness are not the same thing, even though they feel identical from inside your own head. So here's the question worth carrying with you after this video ends. If millions of people can be completely, genuinely confident about something that simply is not true, then what about you? How many of your own memories, the ones you have never had a reason to question, are quietly wrong in exactly the same way? You would have no way of knowing. None of us would. History doesn't always give us closure. Sometimes the only ending is the not knowing, and that's a story too. If you want more stories like this, you know what to do.